So the colleagues of SNP invited me here to present the Bühler journey regarding the S4 conversion. I will really explain you a bit the journey, not so much on the technical details. For the technical details, also then Ben will help us, and I already see the first mistake. The picture is not yet there. Okay, good. Nevertheless, first I will explain you quickly what Bühler actually is doing. So you see here some products which are produced on Bühler machines. These are inks, for example, but also flour based on mills, and also malting, brewing for beer, etc. So everybody of you most probably comes in contact with a product produced on a Bühler machine in your daily life. Now, what is the relevance of Bühler at all? So Bühler basically has the installed base that 2 billion of people actually are fed based on food which is produced on Bühler machines daily, and 1 billion people is moved every day with products, vehicles, which also contain Bühler components. Now you see here also the footprint, what Bühler is all about. So producing of machines, integrating them into a complete plant, providing education, and also providing services, servitization, all of you know the trend, towards that. Then you see also the market shares which we actually have. So usually Bühler tries to be number 1 or number 2 in the industries where we are active in. Just crunching some figures, so around 13. Now I'm very sorry, so this is really an outdated presentation. So this makes me a bit nervous, so it's not the most outdated one. I will try my best and put everything on the audio. So 13,000 people, around 3 billion turnover, and completely family owned, which is, I would say, also special for a company in this size. You see here also the global presence. So Bühler is active across all the globe in around 100 countries. We have plus 30 manufacturing sites. So majority of the capacity is in China, but also big factories in India, Europe, Germany, and also, for example, in Brazil. Then, speaking about Bühler and what we're doing, Bühler always defines itself as a process-oriented company. Luckily, we started to do that more than 20 years ago, which brings us to a very standardized process map, which you can see here. So the normal leadership processes, which you most probably know, and then we define that as market to market, where we look for a demand which is on the market, develop product against that, further develop, and the product lifecycle management. And then the second thing, C2C, when there is really a customer interest to do a project, deliver that, or to do the customer service. Should it be spare and wear parts? Is it a field service technician, or more and more also maintenance contracts? Now, what you see here is also a result of these 20 years of standardization. So Bühler acquired over time also several companies. We managed in this time also always to bring them on the global ERP system. So we have a one client system in place. This is also the story where we will be all around today, but then also many surrounding topics, but all of these applications, they are the single ones for the complete group. So you also see that we are quite an SAP shop, where possible, where it makes sense for Bühler, we take the relevant SAP products, but we also look for in special niches if there is something which is more attractive from functional or commercial perspective. Good. Now, this was a bit just the foundation that you can connect the dots about what I'm speaking now in the next minutes. So, what have we done? You see here the history. So Bhler is a long-term customer with SAP. We started actually with R2 at these times. I did not saw that. So, but then R3, as you know, and then the global rollouts towards one client, and then around I think it was the year 2020, the next big step. How do we manage to come to S4? This was the very big question. And you see here also the main processes which we cover. So we exchange the presentation because otherwise your part is not in and then you cry, right? Okay, good. So hopefully we fix that until Ben is showing his slides. Good. The main processes which we serve, right? The big plants which we produce, the single machines, and so on, and all these systems below. And it's really a pity. I did a design rework, and the slides have been looking beautiful. I hope I can hand it out afterwards. But now it's really feels a bit bad in my stomach. Good. Anyhow, content is king. What do we see here? So this was then the growing environment over time which we had. So we ended up with more than 6 terabytes of data in the system, provided by all these transactions going on, by all this master data which we created over time. And we also said, look, we don't want just to go in with that into an S4, you know, S4 storage expensive and so on. So we need to think about a much smarter approach. The why, I think the why now for you, everybody, is very clear. So now, currently, I would say we are also quite pushed at this point of time. It was also securing our own innovation, not develop more topics in the wrong direction, right? So there, at this point of time, it was also reasoning behind to protect the innovation itself, and also that we profit from additional innovation which is delivered. Then we gave this program the beautiful name Prism, so the nice triangle. And it was not only the migration of the R4 to S4HANA, but also the components or the different activities which you see on the right-hand side, which are also always part. I think most of you also already know the big changes in finance which are happening and so on. And we also wanted really to focus on data quality and on the business processes to a certain extent. I think also famous, so blue is the color to grab. I learned today, I already forgot how it's now the new word, it's not Kiona, so something else. So we went for blue field to just do minimal changes with selective data migration, with mapping where needed, but with one important focus to really keep the business processes stable. There was one main reason behind that, and the main reason was we want to do it in as short amount of time as possible. So we wanted on a user side that this migration is not really felt, right? So this worked in basically all the business processes which we did. On finance side, there was quite some changes. As you know, there is also the major changes driven by SAP with general ledger and so on. So we went for the middle one. You also see indicated very little the costs which are behind that, and the costs also correlate very much with the time which we have had. Good. So this was the overview, the different topics. So we had some preparation, homework to do, clean up the code which was in the system. Our finance colleagues, they had quite high ambition to also redesign the value flow over time. The ambition got a bit down due to complexity and available resources, but nevertheless, I would say we did a big step. And also the harmonization of the business partner. this is something which I would highly recommend to do upfront and not in the point of the migration. You can easily do that like 1 year upfront, and you take out some risk with that if you do so. Then in the conversion, you see the different aspects already mentioned. I think also quite well known with the scoping, which I mentioned, to keep the process, to keep the user interface as for the users as much as possible. Before, there are some deviations, some transactions, they vanish, then you have to replace, but this was only maybe then a 5% of a change, and therefore also very few change management for our organization. Then some details, as you can see here. I think most important and then also most challenging was which data do we take over? How much data do we take over and how much we put to the archive? And we had basically an easy rule, so financial documents for around 2 years and all the rest for around 5 years. And this sounds very easy, and then you do a slice and everything is done. Unfortunately, it was not so easy, as you can imagine. So the problem was that at Bühler, we have long-running projects. They go longer than 5 years. So this means that we also had to do a positive list, right? So we had to select, is this project older than? And based on that, we had to do a determination of all connected objects, being material master data, be it purchase orders, and so on, back in time in order that after the migration, we do not have any inconsistent state. We underestimated that point, I must say. This then also led to some additional work, which I will show in the overview afterwards as well. The rest was more or less a cleanup of legacy, right? So we had, for example, the nice little abbreviation MU, which stands for, logically, Müllerei. Now, meanwhile, with a global company, Müllerei is not so used anymore, so we had to clean it up. And we also have quite often organizational changes, which made it necessary to switch to a much more ID-driven approach. Good. The rest, I think, all fine and also very logical when you look at the topics, also what we already have heard this morning. Time-wise, what happened? So the ambition was to do it as fast as possible, as lean as possible, and with as low risk as possible, right? Sounds very easy. I think everybody has this ambition. Now, we overall, from the program perspective, it took us then around 17 months, as indicated here, where we went through. One important point maybe also to mention was freezes. So freezes in the sense of how many parallel projects, changes I have during this time. So we started with a soft freeze that also our business colleagues, they get used to it. And then we had to enter a hard freeze, which was then really also a hard thing to do. So let's say the key message behind it is really try to focus on not having any parallel activities. Maybe it sounds a bit stupid, but we also have other systems which basically are not highly connected to SAP ERP, but also there we stopped most of the activities in order to protect also our internal organization, our team, from a big overload. Now, Ben, we have a technical challenge. Can we manage to bring your slide up, or you just want to describe it?
Unfortunately, we do have a technical issue. We can reload the slides, but apparently it will take about 5 minutes to reload the slides.
Should I go ahead until this is done? And
well,
Ben, thank you for coming on stage to say that.
Thank you. Welcome. Yes, if you want, you can carry on and we can reload the slides and then we can continue with the presentation.
So thank you very much. So Ben saved my life, as you can see, but also in the project he saved my life several times. So he was our main partner on SAP side, and maybe saying that now also in the sense of winning together. So this was really a key aspect also in the project, that even if you struggle, even if you have like problems like that, that you still stick together. So for that, it was quite a good exercise. Good. Let's continue. Now, what really has happened, or you see here the original plan with the test migration. So we have been planning together with SNP. We also have an integration partner on hand, Swisscom, which is very well known in Switzerland as the biggest consulting company. And together we developed this original plan. Now in the execution world looked a little bit different. So what happened actually is that after the first migration, we looked each other in the eyes and we really had, I would say, no clue what happened. And then we said, okay, let's rework it, let's verify, let's adapt the rules in order to make it happen. Then after the second migration, our finance colleagues almost break out in tears. Also still not there where we want to be. And due to that, and due to this insecurity which we generated in the organization, we decided, look, we need to do additional migrations. We need to add that, we need to give the security into the organization that what we are doing, what we are migrating works. And it was then highly connected to these rules which we set, the rules which we changed, this verification process, and it took a lot of time. And before the slides looked very well, so now I think we have also the right design. Good. Let's see if the clicker works. Yes, it works. So I finished this slide. Here I don't. So voila, big success today. So good. So we are then ending up with like 2-3 additional test migrations. This led to an overall change of the project of 4 weeks. So we really managed to keep the speed up quite well. So we had to move by 4 weeks based on 70 months. So we still have been very happy. Good, and now I'm also very happy. I welcome Ben on stage. And thank you for the patience and solving again my problem. So what was the Bühler landscape which you have had?
Thank you, Markus, and again, apologies for the technical issues. So from the landscape point of view, anyone familiar with a Bluefield migration will have seen similar landscape setups before. We started obviously with the production landscape at the top. From the production system, we took a copy of that production system so that it could serve as the basis for the test migrations. This enables us obviously to prevent impact to the production system while executing the several test migrations that Markus just referred to. From this copy, we generate an empty shell. So that we have a system which doesn't contain the transactional data, but does contain much of the data needed for the operation of the SAP system, structural information, table contents, customizing, and so on. This is then updated or converted to S4, which forms the basis you can see on the lower stream for the conversion in the S4 environment to then take place. What we then have is the ability to recreate these empty shells for future test migrations, one after the other, to allow us to, without impacting the production environment, continue through the process of the test migrations.
Thank you very much, Ben. If I would try to explain it, it would be a bit more holprig, as we say in Swiss German. Good. Now, test migration, architecture in place, everything all right. Then the question was, okay, now how do we prepare the Bühler organization on this change? As mentioned, on the user side, it not changed a lot, but there was some changes. So this was the reason why we went in with a quite extensive test organization. So on the ERP system, we have around 8,000 users globally, and we went then in with around 800 users, so 10%. Of the users also really did testing globally. It's clear typically you take process manager, key users and so on. And this allowed us that they already spread all the information in the organization, and we had a high learning of the company. So there we could really tick a box. Also important to manage from information technology and process perspective. We have quite a big team also in India, and they took care about the complete test management, so test case definitions and so on, and handled that, I would say, with excellence. Good. Then as for conversion plan, right? So this was now really the details of a weekend. So we had the ambition to do it in one weekend. As you can see here, starting on Thursday, start to lock the system, start to remove the load, start to cut down the interfaces, and then the big time frame starts where we really pulled out the data from the old system. We did all the transformation which was needed, and then we load it up again. So this may be also important to mention is this point of no return, which you see there. So we left for us open that in case something is not working, we could go back, right? And we said, okay, this is a very theoretical thing, so no problem. Usually we planned it very well. We executed all the test migrations very well, so it must be very smooth. Then I think, yes, it was like this, maybe not. Good. Then, Ben, how was it? How did it feel? Easy, huh?
Well, and this is exactly the point. And I think actually our presentation right now is a perfect example that it doesn't matter how well you prepare and plan for everything. On the day, sometimes things don't go according to plan. So we had all of these test migrations, as Markus referred to, and one of the purposes of the test migrations is that it gives us a good understanding of how long different parts of the migration should take, so that we can, of course, plan to have the necessary resources, both human and technical, available when we need them, but also so that we can check to see that things are running as we had expected them to. So I think we heard just before from Tara, who was on this very stage, saying that she's aiming for boring go-lives. Now I can see why that would be desirable, but of course, as a project manager, we quite often need to have a certain element of unpredictability that allows us to show our actual skills and bring things to the fore. So we can see here that we started with the cutover according to plan, in fact, well ahead of plan. Our exports were going very, very quickly. In fact, we were almost so far ahead of schedule that we thought we might be finished before the end of the weekend, which would, of course, have brought everybody quite a lot of satisfaction. Then, unfortunately, overnight, working into Saturday, things started to go a lot slower. And we started to look a little bit with concern at the way things were running. And the systems didn't appear to have any problems, and yet everything was running much, much slower by a factor of about 10 than we had expected. So we all sat together, Bhler as well as SNP. We had SAP virtually on the calls, as well as the partners that were involved, to dig into what might actually be happening and what we could do. In the end, we identified that if we were to continue going as we were, we would probably finish by the following weekend, which was, of course, not an acceptable situation as far as the cutover was concerned. So we made the difficult decision at that point that we needed to apply a couple of SAP notes as recommended by SAP. We needed to reboot the systems, and we needed to bring everything back up again and remove everything that wasn't absolutely critical to the migration. And that was a difficult decision we all made together. And this comes back to Jens's plenary this morning, where it's absolutely key that we have a team that can come together when needed, when things aren't running exactly according to plan, to make the right decisions. And I think Markus will agree it was the right decision. We picked up after that, and things then continued to execute according to plan. And indeed, with all of the additional testing that Bühler was able to do very quickly afterwards, we still managed to complete the cutover on plan.
Yes, yeah. And this was really a big success. And you can imagine how the blood pressure of all the people went up at this point of time. So it was really red. And I'm still very thankful for the very good collaboration which we had at this point of time with SNP, but also SAP supported as well. So I think we have been lucky because it was really the tipping point where we would have destroyed all the work more or less done in all these weeks before. Good. Then we are already coming close to an end. Just a little overview about interfaces. We also heard today managing interfaces is key. We have around 80 additional applications connected, which you see here on this slide. Wave 0 are the highly integrated applications like GTS and so on. With these, we even started to connect again before the point of no return, just because of the throughput time. Worst case, we would have to do a rollback, and the others, we just then did piece by piece based on the business criticality. Good. Then, one key learning. This was quite close after COVID. People really hesitated to come to the office, and even more to come together. Good. Now we really then took some very not popular decisions. Number one, I told the team, look, home office for the next 8 weeks will not exist. Everybody very unhappy with me, but yes, this is sometimes the hard job. And then the second thing we announced here, this command room for 2 weeks, 1 week before the go live and 1 week after, where everybody comes together. A lot of groaning, a lot of complaining in the beginning. After the migration, people told us this was the best thing what we could do. For, let's say, for the management team, it was good because you detect directly with noise if something is not working as expected, and the team really sees I'm not alone. I'm in a team. We have a lot of experts working together. So highly recommended to do something like that, even if you're not launching a SpaceX rocket or something. And then just some impression. I think the highlight really there on the highlight, the low light on the left side with this 100% CPO load everywhere, where you think, okay, world will fall apart, but then also very good impression with the global teams also celebrating this success together. Good. Then I would say, Ben, you have some more closing words, any additional points?
I think it's, as you said, Markus, it was a question of the teamwork which managed to get through the cutover. It's, as mentioned, it doesn't matter how much you prepare in advance, you need to be ready for the unexpected. And I think that's what took place here. The command room, as you said, was absolutely critical. Everybody was able to very quickly speak with each other. And through that, we were able to avoid rolling back through before this point of no return, which would have been obviously a very difficult decision to have made. So I think in the end, it was very successful. And hopefully you found with Bhler as well that with your new S4 system that everything is hopefully going in the right direction.
That's good. Thank you very much, Ben. And then very last thing, thank you very much for your support.
Thank you, Markus.
It was a pleasure. And thanks to you for listening. And if you have follow-up questions, we are afterwards behind the stage open for any discussion or questions what you have. Thank you for your time and have a very nice afternoon. Important, the football games in the evening, 9 o'clock, it's Switzerland against Scotland. This is important. Yes.